Welcome to the city of Floresville, Texas, a community poised for well-managed growth and an improved quality of life for our diverse population. Floresville is renowned for its natural beauty and is well situated in the San Antonio metro market and just north of the Eagle Ford Shale Formation. Agriculture remains an important contributor to the city's economy. We're known as a peanut capital of Texas. We even have a giant peanut on the grounds of our Floresville courthouse as a tribute and hold a yearly peanut festival to celebrate. Fed by new jobs as a result of the nearby Eagle Ford Shale play, Floresville is experiencing a building boom with new families relocating here, and it's enhancing the area quality of life by adding to its trail system for hikers and bicyclists. Floresville is a vibrant and growing community, a culturally diverse home to people who prefer a more intimate and friendly atmosphere. This is Floresville, Texas, where we honor the past and challenge the future.
I'm the Executive Director for the Floresville Economic Development Corporation. Charlotte Jimenez Nelson is my assistant there at the EDC. I also have our board member and photographer, cameraman, Roy Idrock. He's our treasurer at the EDC. But thanks, a lot of familiar faces, people that we know. This is, I think, our fourth lunch and learn, our second lunch and learn with businesses, but our fourth being total. I think we're going to turn it to more of like a social networking. We're going to start doing what's called Floresville networking event in the evening. So be looking out for that next month. But we really just want to thank you for coming. What we're trying to do is just raise awareness about the business needs and what they need. And this is an important time of the year. April 15th, I believe is the tax day. We'll be here. 18th. We'll be here before we know it. And so we have a great presentation. We work with Janice. Janice works with EMC Strategic Group. She's part of an arm of the Floresville Economic Development Corporation. What her and her husband Ernie do is they help us write grants. And part of their goal this year, and our goal is to help small businesses. So we're trying to get these lunch and learns, business lunch and learns. I know that they have a lunch and learn with their chamber already, so we're trying to keep it separate. But I think we can maybe merge it in the future. Make it one big successful event for the community and for businesses. So just know, I know Iris and Mark. And Mark's here at the chamber, so it's good that he's here because that's what we want to do. We want to unite and be a group. So that's really, I won't ramble on anymore. Just know that we're here for your business needs. My office is located downtown at City Hall, and yeah, I'm here for you. So I'm going to hand it over to Janice now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so as Ben has mentioned, we're trying to do monthly workshops for small businesses, and even large businesses, but small businesses I want to focus on in order for us to help you all grow as much as you want to grow. You know, some people just want to stay under the 500 employees, which is fine. I'd rather have you all be comfortable with the type of business you have and not grow too much, not even grow at all, which is not a good thing. But have some growth is good. And with that, we've been bringing the speakers to help you with the businesses that you have. So right now I'd like to go around and introduce yourselves, and that way Laura will know, or sorry, Laura.
That's okay.
Well, Laura can know exactly what kind of business you're in. And let's go ahead and start with Derek.
All right, Derek Godlitz, Freedom Mowing. I think I know everybody here.
Hi there, Wanda Hubbard, represent HCC Construction.
I'm Ben, and I'm also helping out family in the small business in town as well, so I'm interested to hear what's going on too as well.
Ann Myers, I'm with the Chamber of Commerce.
Mark Burris, I'm with the Chamber of Commerce, but I also have we do sublimation and engraving, so we do things like awards, personalized items, promotional items, things like that too. So if you guys need anything like that, please let us know.
I'm Charlotte Jimenez Nelson, the assistant for the Economic Development Corporation.
I'm Diane, I'm representing Amber Cooch Parlots Dog Grooming and Boarding here in town.
And Charlotte's daughter, she's gonna try to take notes. I was telling a small business candle.
913 Candle Company.
Yeah.
Oh,
Doing
nice.
very well. Yeah, very proud of her.
So, I don't have, I feel like everybody's like PowerPointed and zoomed out at this point, so I brought old-fashioned paper handouts. I know, fancy. So for
Flip charts.
those of you that don't know me, today, I'm Laura Dolly with H&R Block. I have 3 locations, I'm an area manager. And so one of the things that I kind of wanted to take off that you said, I'm also here to support the middle business, and I think a lot of times people don't realize what the middle business means. So when you think about big business, a lot of times you think about Walmart or HEB, and you probably look at H&R Block as big business because we have a corporate office in Kansas City, but a lot of your rural H&R Block offices are franchise owned. So we're small business owners just like you guys. Now, I don't own the business, I manage all of them. But we're basically a mid-sized business as well because they are franchise owned. So, I just kind of always want to shine a light on that, not to necessarily look at the brand, but when you walk in and ask, is this franchise owned? Because that's somebody from little old Pleasanton that has built a business through franchise. So, I don't really have a list of things to talk about. I brought some.
Oh, thank you. That's better.
I didn't need any more fluorescent lighting, but that's okay. So I just brought some things that we can toss around, and then I'll sit and you guys can have questions. We can open discussion. I did want to bring attention to some things that are on the IRS radar right now. And some things that we know. We have, it's called the Tax Institute, and we also have a government relations team that literally does fly-ins back and forth to DC. So we do have the ear of a lot of people in Congress and in the House. And then our Tax Institute works really, really closely with the IRS to find those hot button issues. So some things are on the radar right now, and you all may have heard about the 1099-K issue for merchant payments. So the way they used to work, and the way they were supposed to work this year changed. So typically, if you process credit card payments through Square, First Data, wherever you process card payments through, if you have under 200 transactions or a certain dollar value, you don't get issued a 1099-K. There was a tax law change this year that said if it's more than $600, you're getting a 1099-K. Everybody in the world panicked. Our phones started ringing off the hook. There's good and bad in this. So how many of you have ever been out to dinner and you cash out the other person for your portion of it? If you did that enough times during the year, you could get a 1099-K, whether it was for business or not. So one of the things they were saying is make good jokes. So what happened was a lot of people in the hair industry, there's a lot of money that's going on under the table. A lot of small craft markets, all those kind of things. Well, there was no way for the IRS to track that this money is changing hands and that people need to pay tax on it. So that's what the movement is for this. There is a valid reason why it needs to happen. You will see some things. I just saw something on Floresville Social the other day where we were talking about credit card processing fees and how they're rising and stuff and the cost of doing business. Do I add that in to my price? How do I recoup that? Unfortunately, plastic is a cost of doing business. I'm sure you know that. I know we know that. Especially in a professional service, people don't carry that kind of cash around. So if we didn't accept cards, we would lose a lot of business. But what they're focusing on is the amount of money that's changing hands. You know, I'm a firm believer if I go to your business and I want to get my hair done, it's $125, I'm going to pay you with card because that's also keeping you legitimate with your reporting. So there's been a lot of discussion. It was supposed to happen as of December 31st. It didn't. The card companies didn't have it together yet to be able to do that, but it is coming this next year. And so they've built in line items to the tax forms to where, let's just say we go out to dinner, I cash out you for my portion of it. You will put it on your tax return, not for 2023. This is good for 2022. This is going forward. And you will put on there that it's just personal and you can zero it out. But it's to catch the businesses that are not reporting these transactions. Did not go into effect, they couldn't get it together by December 31st, but it will be going into play for 2023 taxes, so starting this next year. They haven't decided if it's gonna be the $600 limit, which catches a lot of individuals that are just moving money back and forth between friends, or if they're going to make it a more reasonable amount, like $4,000 or $5,000. So, you know, for the hairdressers that thought that they were just gonna notate pizza every time they did it, the IRS will catch on to that really, really quick. So that one's kind of on hold, but we suspect that it'll go through. Mileage. Mileage had a rate change. So if you had a business, and I'm gonna pass this, I got a couple of things. I just didn't want to put it in front of where you were eating. Mileage rates changed on July 1st, and I just had to handwrite them at the bottom because it wasn't in my handout. But it's handwritten down there at the bottom.
What's the date, Joe?
Huh?
Are you gonna do it?
No, so we have to split up the mileage.
Can you send me the link again?
So when you go see your tax person, you need to have that broken down because it did increase as of July the 1st. It did go up. IRS typically does that when we have an increase in gas prices. And it's not just the gas prices because your mileage rate encompasses maintenance on your vehicle, all of those other things. So that did change to make sure that you have that broken down, and whatever you do, mileage is one of the biggest flags on a tax return, especially excessive mileage. You know, if you, Derek, I'm gonna use your business, sorry. He's got a mowing business, got a couple of vehicles running around. The IRS expects to see quite a bit of mileage on his business. As a hairdresser, you wouldn't expect to see a whole lot of mileage, right? Maybe occasionally to go take care of a wedding party or something like that. So make sure that you just don't go and add up your total mileage for the year and think, just
But it's the mileage from
do
like
50%.
your business to where you're going, not from home to the business.
Oh, thank you, Ben. Yes.
Yeah.
And that is on this.
That's right. What if your home is your business?
There's a whole bunch of information on this little smart card. So it depends. So if you're using like a business use at home, to where you don't have an office space or you don't have someplace that you stop first in the morning, which is kind of rare, right? Then yes, your start of the day starts there. But for most people, you have to commute. It's the same as me. I'm on a W-2. I have to get to work every day. So does a business owner. It's the in-between that's the deductible.
It's the B to C and C to D trips.
You've seen that little circular
Yeah,
graph
but
before.
not the trip when you go home either. It's the ones
Right.
you do in between. You can get really caught up if your mileage doesn't add up and you're counting your mileage from your work to business, and then from your business, wherever your start is, home, it's the in-between. As long as you stay within the in-between, you're safe.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a hot button. So that's on the radar. S Corp is on the radar big time, and I have a handout about that, and we'll talk about entities a little bit. And the other thing that's on the radar, and you probably have heard it in the news or even in the State of the Union the other night, is the PPP loans, the EIP, all of the COVID-related things that people jumped onto and got. We're not going to look at it at a corporate level, which is where they're really doing the investigating, but on a small to mid-sized business level, one of the things that they're starting to look at is, did you suddenly have employees? Were you normally someone who had 1099s and treated your employees like contractors or subcontractors, and then suddenly in 2020 you started issuing W-2s? Well, the IRS is looking at that going, hey, if you've always had 1099s and now you suddenly had W-2s to take advantage of these loans, we're going to take a little bit deeper dive into what that looks like.
Yeah.
And one of the things they said is, especially if everybody on W-2s
50,000 new agents.
is related to you and lives in your household. And some people don't want to be on W-2s. So I have people that have a mix of 1099 associates and W-2 employees, but that's one of the things that they're looking at. Before we just open it up for questions that you guys have, I do have some other handouts. I'm just going to pass it around, take one if it's interesting to you. If it's not, just leave it. This one talks about business owners and how you're structured depends on how you can take the money out of your business. Like if I'm a sole proprietor and I'm just on a Schedule C on my individual tax return, I can go down to the bank and take money out anytime I want to. Hopefully it's in a separate account, don't commingle your business funds. The worst thing you can do if you ever do have to sit down in front of an auditor is when he says, let me see your business books, and it's the same as your personal, you're automatically going to go through a full, complete audit. So always keep a business account. And then I hate to keep getting you back up.
No, I don't
Pass
care.
around.
Let me get this. This is it too.
I also brought you some things about business entities because this has become a really hot button at the IRS. So,
I'm a small business.
during COVID, a lot of people started businesses. But what they did was they went out to places like LegalZoom, or they asked their best friend's sister's cousin what formation they should be. And so, a lot of people had created businesses that they didn't need to go to the trouble to be into. So it kind of breaks it down, and the difference is there's really only 3 types of entities. You're either a sole proprietor, you're a partnership, or you're a corporation. Then people will say, what about an LLC? Well, an LLC is protection. You can have an LLC with a partnership, and you can have an LLC as a sole proprietor. That's more of a legal umbrella to protect your personal assets. It does require you to get an employer identification number, which normally as a sole proprietor you wouldn't have to unless 1, you brought on employees, or 2, you want to protect your social security number. But what happened, and there is a place around that does this, there's a thing called an S corporation election. I'm sure if you're in business you've heard of an S corp election. That's not an entity. It's asking the IRS for specialized tax treatment. That's what an S corp election is. Basically what happens, and I'm going to use really round numbers, is let's just say you had $100,000 in gross receipts and you had $50,000 in expenses. So your net profit for your business is $50,000. Use really round numbers. If you're a sole proprietor on an individual Schedule C on your tax return, you're going to pay federal tax on $50,000 and you're going to pay Social Security and Medicare tax on $50,000. That tax is 15.3%. What happens when you make the S corp election is you're asking the IRS to treat you not only as the owner of that business, but an employee of that business. So let's say I have this $50,000 profit here. The IRS says if you make that S corp election, you have to pay yourself a reasonable salary. IRS says that's between 40 and 60% of your net profit. So in this case, I've got a net profit of $50,000. Let's just say I'm going to go 50% and pay myself a salary of $25,000. I have to file payroll taxes, I have to put myself on a W-2, and I will only pay Social Security and Medicare tax on my $25,000. My other $25,000 that's left in my profit after I pay myself is now only subject to federal tax on the personal side. So you're not paying the self-employment tax on that other $25,000. Well, what happened, then this has been ongoing for years and years. The problem was the IRS was not enforcing the reasonable salary portion. So I'm helping quite a few people here in the area that went to some place and they said, hey, I can save you $15,000, $20,000 a year in tax. Let's turn you into an S corp. But they never told them about, you've heard this, they never told them about the salary part. And so now IRS is seeing all of these S corp elections with no employees, no payroll, no anything. So really, really hot button. That one, there's an entire enforcement team at the IRS on right now. So I just kind of wanted to give you some information on that because it is a good election if you know what you're doing. It can save tax. So I gave you one of those. There's also a business entity pros and cons. The thing is, when you do form to make the S corp election or become a partnership, you now have 2 tax returns to file every year, which they also don't necessarily tell you when you're setting these up. You have an individual return that's due on March 15th. Come on. And the reason for that is that entity has to basically issue K-1s to each individual that's involved in the business, and then that flows through to the personal side. So, and he did say I could share this. I had a guy come in the other day, him and his buddy created a partnership that his wife knows nothing about. I mean, she knew that they were opening a business together. Didn't know it was a partnership. He formed it almost 2 years ago, has never filed anything on the partnership, and now they can't file their personal return because we've got to go catch that stuff up. The other thing, when you have an S corp, or, I'm sorry, not an S corp.
LLC.
When you have an LLC, you also have, in May, you have a franchise tax that has to be filed every year. It's a simple process. You go online, and it's free.
Unless you're late.
Unless you're late, yeah. And that's one that you don't want to get in trouble with, is the franchise tax board.
And also the business entity, it's two of them, it's the franchise tax and the business ownership.
Yes.
Sorry, there's 2 things.
Yep. So there's, and you've probably heard this in your personal life. Hey, my buddy did this, or, you know, I heard if you go do this. And I just kind of wanted, because I think a lot of it was due to COVID and people starting businesses and going online and researching without going to some type of expert and go, hey, okay, this is what I'm thinking about doing. No, just pay $59.95 and, you know, you're set up.
More than that.
Yeah, a little more than, well, and there's some pretty cut rate ones out there that I don't recommend, but anyways. So just wanted to throw that out. There is also a handout on the S Corp election for those of you, and there is some tax savings and some benefits. We have, for our clients that we do, small businesses, we have what's called a business structural analysis tool, and it will literally take you through and go, this is the amount of savings should you make this election. But then we also say, okay, now you have to file 2 tax returns. You're gonna have to pay somebody to set all that up for you. H&R Corporate does now have a business entity formation center that is strictly, that's all they do. It's out there, it's online in the business resources. They can file for the LLCs, the partnerships, all the state, all the federal, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna sit, just open it up for questions if y'all have, like, any business related questions or.
I'm gonna tag on and then we can ask questions. So I'm gonna add on, and, so for those of y'all that are aware of what we do, with economic growth, so if you have a business within the limits, and that's what we're funded by, right? We're funded by sales tax within city limits, and you find something, or you want to work on a grant for your business, that's what we're here for. So our office is open to work with Ernie and Janice. We have them with us so they can help any type of grant funding you may find for your business to expand it or pay for employees. If they come across that, as we get that kind of stuff, we'll send it out on our page as well. So just know that that's out there. So if you're starting your small business and you have those type of things that need to be helped as well during that kind of thing, with not only the tax time but with grants, we can help with that as well. So.
And also, if you want to start another business besides what you're already doing, if you want to start that up, let me know. I can help you out to get your EIN and also your, what do you call it, comptrollers, I can't remember the thing right now. But you know,
Tax ID.
Tax ID.
Tax ID, and then just how to go down this basic things on going down the district clerk's office and filing for your DBA, making sure you're have the right name with the county and the state as well. And if you want to work out of state, make sure you filed your name with the business outside of state, because you don't want to travel into their state and they think that, oh, I'm good with the county, but then you go to their state and your business entity is with someone else and you travel. So just know you have to think about all those little things and where to go about getting it done. So. And for those of y'all that are new and haven't come as well, we're going to have a place, we'll do a little sign-in sheet thing here at the end, and we can send you stuff that we did before. So when we were working with a few requests that we can send different programs we had before on how to get like government contracts with like with a construction company, how to sign up and get those.
Oh, you were using that? I'm so sorry.
Stuff like that.
Sorry.
Be licensed to get the government
It's okay,
contract
I'll give it to you.
jobs and stuff like that.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's probably the other one.
What's the business you were saying?
Johnny, we take some orders if you want to eat.
I really wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah, we're about to ask questions here in a second.
Yeah, we just walked in.
I'm here just in the nick of time.
Well, luckily I looked at the Facebook post and I was like, it starts at 11.
Yeah.
I was like, no. I just left everything. I've been asking Jen about it.
Yeah, so Laura is an HR block area coordinator, so just so you know, she runs like 3 area stores.
Okay.
Here, Pleasanton, the other one. So.
What business it is, he goes in.
I moved this spot so I can see you in the eye.
Their parking lots with.
Did you order anything?
Concrete.
No, I'm okay right now. I really not hungry.
Okay.
I was really interested.
There's extra water too.
But he's all over the place and also is doing that right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, the floor is open, we're eating and kind of just informal now, so Johnny has some questions, I know you came late, ask away.
So,
Go for it.
I recently started a business and it's just a drinking water consulting.
Okay.
More and more, I guess, kind of word is traveling by mouth. Like, hey, this guy, he can facilitate services to a city, you know, through the state licenses that I have. I didn't know what I was getting into in the beginning, so I just said, let me just try my hand at it. So it's turning out that it's working out better than I thought.
Congratulations.
So I was able to facilitate 1 contract, and I'm looking at like 2 or 3 more throughout the area. I think I'm only going to be able to handle 1 or 2, just due to time. But I didn't do a DBA, I didn't do an LLC. I just kind of said, let me try it and see what happens.
Okay.
So now it's time to do taxes, and I'm like, well, where do I go from here?
Right.
You know, I kind of did everything ass backwards, but that's typically the way I am as an individual is let me dive into your feet first and, you know, pay the piper, and then I'll figure it out as I kind of go along.
So first, let me tell you, you are probably in the higher percentile of the people that didn't do it backwards. Most people do. You jump in. When you form a business, you're jumping in feet first.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna go get to work and I'll figure the rest of the stuff out later.
Okay.
So definitely, like Ben was saying, through the resources that they have, definitely I would look into getting a DBA.
Okay.
That way that's your name, your business.
Okay.
On the LLC, you don't necessarily have to. The type of work you're doing, I would say it's probably recommended to form the LLC.
Okay.
Just because LLC is just an umbrella of protection. That means if you come do some work for me, and let's just say you build my house and my house falls down, okay? I can, yeah, I can sue you for everything you have. If you have that LLC, I can only sue you for your business assets. I can't come after your personal residence, your cars, your, you know, those kind of things. So it does give you that protection. And also, you know, then you'll have an EIN, so if you do pay a contractor or anything you do, you have a business number, you're not using your social.
Okay.
Like to issue 1099s for subcontractors or any of those kind of things. So,
Okay.
yeah. And then, you know, if you're still starting out, you could very easily just be a sole proprietor on a Schedule C. The LLC just is an addition to your name.
And it protects you both ways, it protects you from getting sued, and it protects you to your business as well, so it's like a wall.
And-
Yeah.
And so, a big concern of mine and my wife's is she's a police officer, and she was in a shooting a few years back, and you know, she's worried about the civil part of it now. You know, it's like now they can sue you civilly if they want to, whatever the family may be, whether it was a just or unjust shooting, they can sue you. So to protect our assets, you know, there's other people that work with her that have, you know, businesses. So I kind of heard, you know, well, put everything within my LLC, you know, just in case I do get sued, but is that the right thing to do? You know, especially because now you're kind of LLC, what if your LLC gets sued through your business, you know, for some reason?
So I would say that's probably more of an attorney question, but I would think if your business is under the LLC and your name, that no one should be able to touch that.
Yes.
Nobody's supposed to, okay, it's not gonna touch your personal account. It will touch your business. So it's protecting you.
He's worried about the lawsuit on his wife, on the personal side.
Okay, yeah, that should not affect anything that has to do with business.
Because your name, is it just your name on the business,
It
or
is
is it?
just.
That's why the
Okay.
LLC protects you both ways. So it
Yeah.
protects you from people suing here. Or if you do something on the civil side, it also protects your business from when they come after you civilly, they can't come to your
Right.
business. So the LLC
It's like
is
a block, it's like a big
it's a
wall.
big wall, both ways. So it protects your personal, but it protects your business from what you do on the personal side. Say you're drinking and driving, hit somebody, something happens, they cover you personally, but they can't cover your business.
Gotcha.
So that LLC sets up a wall both ways that way.
So should I go through like LegalZoom? I've looked at LegalZoom.
So that's what this paper was right here, talking about. You took mine when you asked that. So the S Corp, they have an online organization where they set up through H&R Block. And you don't have to use H&R Block or use other, these probably got them as well, this is a new thing they have. So they can go through and help you set up.
I honestly feel comfortable with going to an H&R Block or, what's it called, the other companies.
Put it on a face, you put it.
I'm very much a in-person type of,
Right.
you know, I like to.
So I will tell you, on the entity formation, the reason we don't do these in-house in our offices is because we specialize in individual tax.
Okay,
Now, once you have your entity set up, we can do anything you need to do. One of the problems we've had is not having individuals, because there's not enough of that call to train everybody in every location. That's why Block Corporate has created this entity formation, and you can go out there for free. Basically, when you go to our website, and there's other websites, like I said, not just mine, just please ask if they specialize in business. There's a whole bunch of tax companies out there that don't specialize in business, but you can go look for free. So go onto the website, go into the small business section, and there's an entity formation tool, and you can click around in there and play with it. And it'll tell you exactly what it's gonna cost to set that up, file it with the state. They do everything on the federal and state level for that. And there's other places that do that too. Shop around and find out. LegalZoom is great. I have seen sometimes it take on the federal side and maybe fail on the state side. But that's typically in states that have state income tax as well, which we don't.
okay.
And the DBA, you just walk over to the courthouse, it's spend local, and I don't know if they've even digitized it yet. The last
And that's
time I
what I
was
was
there,
gonna ask.
That's
it was
Genevieve.
it was still in a
I can
book,
help you with that.
Oh, that's funny.
yeah.
Cause I was gonna ask.
They still have a book, you can go and flip it, and see
Yeah.
if the name is there, and if it's
Is it
not,
online?
yeah.
Online?
No, you gotta go in, because there's a book. Right now, if you go into Wilson County, they give you a big book and you just go by your, say you wanna call it Reed Investments or Reed. I just go look under Reed, it's not there, you don't follow that name. That's how you search it and then you file that name. And
Okay,
it's good for 10 years. And you gotta re-up it every 10 years.
And what's the fee for filing for the DBA?
Oh, it used to be $11.50, now it's
It's
29.
Yeah,
Out there, it's like $29.50 or.
That's very reasonable.
okay.
but you can
Yeah.
walk in there in 15 minutes and have it done, you know.
Really?
Yeah, when you leave here, you can go over there and do a DBA.
You can do your DBA and then go in there and change it later on when you get LLC and just add LLC to it.
Okay. It's just,
You can amend it, you can always
it's my
amend
first
it.
time ever, you know, doing anything, and
Yeah.
I've always been told like, you gotta make sure you save money for taxes, and you know, you don't wanna make too much money in life, cause then you're gonna have to pay all these taxes back, and I'm like,
Well, and that's
well, then how
part
do
of it.
people get rich, you know? What, you know?
Right.
What's the problem with making money? I'm being honest, you know, that's what I wanna do is, you know?
And I'll be real honest, I have a lot of small business clients that come in and, oh, they're just, oh my God, this is my tax bill and I gotta pay federal and I gotta pay Social Security and Medicare tax. The only difference in taxes between you and I, me on W-2 and you as a sole proprietor, is half of the Social Security and Medicare tax. That's it, and I will literally break it down and go,
That's
look.
not part of your salary.
Right,
So
right.
that extra
Exactly.
40% that you're not, give you up to 60, most people go to 60%. So that 40% that you're making, you're saving that 7.5%.
Yeah, because my employer kicks in half of my Social Security and Medicare tax where you're paying all of it. But I don't have any deductions that I can take that you are allowed to take because the 2018 tax law got rid of all employee business-related deductions. So really, at the end of the day, there's no difference in tax except that and a half that the employer kicks, that half the employer kicks in. The problem is you feel it more if you don't make estimated tax payments throughout the year. See, mine's coming out all the time. I'm paying the same amount of tax, it's just in little pieces.
Every paycheck.
Yeah, every paycheck. And whereas if you don't get on something to where you are paying those quarterly tax payments, it's hitting you all at one time. And I will tell you, whoever you work with, if they're not talking to you about setting up quarterly tax payments and getting ahead of that, that is one of the greatest gifts a tax person can give you, is not having to feel that stress when you come in of going, oh gosh, it's, you know, April 18th and I gotta come up with $20,000 to send to the IRS.
Or you make
when
that
I-
quarter tax payment to yourself and keep it somewhere if it's big enough to make money on your money and then pay it at the end. So people do it, there's two different philosophies on doing that.
Yep.
So
So I do the quarterly through H&R, but I also put every week, I just put like $100, you know, aside into account when I take the tax payment that I gotta pay the state taxes and the local taxes, because you're charging those, so you're setting those aside, and I move them into a different account. And I put a little bit for, in case we have a better year and that estimated tax wasn't enough, and I still will owe a couple thousand, then I put it aside. So it's there when we sit down in April.
And I'm glad you said that, because of confidentiality, I can't, so I was barely making eye contact with you. But he is one of those success stories with his business that went from, oh my goodness, you know, here's this huge balance due, and now, you know, he doesn't have to think about it now. It does take some work and it does take some discipline.
Yeah, it's like, everybody says, well, I wanna be my own owner, have my own business, I hate working for the big man. Well, guess what? When you work as a business owner, you're working 24/7 and nonstop. Even when you're dreaming about it, it's like, okay, I can do this and this and that.
So
You're actually literally dreaming about it.
this stuff for you.
Yeah.
Yes. But it's, you know what, as a peace of mind, honestly, I think that it's important to hire people like H&R Block, or if you know somebody who's already been working with small businesses, she mentioned, because my CPA, he has, he knows everything about nonprofits and the CP and the small businesses, which I love him. He's been doing our taxes for 10 years. And we're both learning at the same time together, because she even mentioned something that makes a lot of sense, that taxes have changed. Every year, almost every year, something else happens, something else has changed. Or you can't do this, but you can do this. Or you gotta make sure that this is correct, and so we're learning together. And so this information that she's giving me, of course, I'm gonna make sure that he knows this information too, because it's important.
I think Mark had a question too back there.
Yeah, I saw that, and remind me to talk to you about sales tax.
So my question is, whenever you're like a sole proprietorship or a LLC, you basically own your business. So what happens whenever something happens to you like cancer and all of a sudden you can't do your business? You just typically have to put it on the shelf until you get through that life-changing event. Is there some way that you can, you know, talk to the IRS and something and tell them, you know, because I know that they have requirements and everything else.
You still have to file your personal return, because the IRS doesn't let you put that on hold. And if you're a sole proprietor, then you just report 0 income, 0 expenses. You can actually remove the business from your return. The difference would be if you do have the LLC designation along with that, you would still have that franchise tax obligation. I don't know that that's anything that can be put on hold, but I've had people, you know, because of a life event or birth of a child, that have just said, putting the business on the back burner for 3 or 4 years, they keep their EIN, they file their franchise tax, but that just falls off for a while. Now, if there's any expenses of that, of course, you know, that goes away as well, but yeah, you can put a business on hold for a while. And if you have an S Corp or an LLC, it's better to just put it on hold than it is to shut it down and have to redo it all over again. Yeah.
I don't know. Let me get what a bid, I would have a bid. Yeah.
Is there 2 sides on that?
Whatever he has,
Cucumber salad and the carrot salad doesn't have.
yeah,
Do you want the gravy and the
on the
onions?
side.
On the side?
Yeah.
Okay, on the side. You guys doing okay?
don't want some
Adding you to my
Oh, that's fine.
I did
You doing this
I
one?
ate a lot.
And so then sales tax, so on the business that you're doing, are you going to be required to charge sales tax?
I don't know what sales taxes are.
So,
Okay.
so anytime you do a service, you pay for that service, when you run that service, you have to make sure you pay sales tax. So you have to make sure you charge that when you're billing. Or, some people, like, Derek, I'm gonna call Derek out, because he doesn't mind. Say he cuts a yard, he probably, quotes the sales tax into the cost of the bid. So if you're gonna bid, say, $1,000, let's say round numbers, to do your work, make sure you put in your sales tax, because the IRS is going to expect you to report it. Now, anything you do over $1,500 in sales tax, collect every month, you got to pay monthly by the 20th of every month, or they'll charge you a $50 late fee and they'll charge you interest. And when you start, you'll file it quarterly or you'll file it yearly, or then all of a sudden you'll get a letter from the government when you file your taxes and say, okay, you need to do it quarterly. And then if you start doing it, they'll say you're making enough, you need to do it monthly. And it's a web file that you can go online through the comptroller's office, and you can open up, once you have your EIN or using your social security number, you can talk to them through a 1-800 number and ask them, hey, this is my business, I'm doing it. And they'll say whether you want to do it or not. I know through the other businesses that do like food or like natural supplements, they don't have to pay it. So some people are paying it and they got it reimbursed.
So there's a list. So not all service businesses are required to charge sales tax, and you can probably speak to this. There is a list of ones that have to and don't have to, and occasionally that list changes. So like the business I'm in, if you come in and file your tax return with me, I am not required to charge sales tax on that service income. If you come in and want a copy and I charge you for that, I've got to charge sales tax on that. So that's why we don't charge for copies anymore, because there's so few, it wasn't worth having to file the reports. But it does change, and this gentleman has had experience with this. He shared it with me one time.
Yep, and when I started my business in 2015, they did a tax law change at the state. And before that, lawn care and many other service organization businesses did not have to didn't have to collect sales tax. But in 2015, they updated the regulation. They put it on the digital bookshelf, and they now require it. So between the time I researched my business and started my business, that change happened. So and when you register as an LLC, the state of Texas, the comptroller of the state of Texas is the one that you submit the taxes to. They are tracking that you should be collecting sales tax. And I found out about 1.5 years into my business when they sent me a letter saying, where's our sales tax for last year that you were supposed to be collecting, and picked an arbitrary number out of the air and said, send this to us. And they pick a big arbitrary number and make you prove what you actually had in sales. So my second year in business, I had to try to collect sales tax for that current year, and try to collect and try to pay off the sales tax that I should have collected for the previous 1.5 years.
Gotcha.
Which just about, we just about went out of business after that. But we worked through it, we got over that and learned from it. But
I don't do, on my business, I don't do I don't go give a quote, do a job. I sign a year contract for an X amount of dollars. That's typically the way I've done it, and that's the way I want to continue to do it. So what would be the sales tax on a contract that you would sign for, let's say, a 3-year-long contract?
well, it depends.
Go ahead.
It depends on what you charge. It's the price. It's based on the price.
Well, taxable and non-taxable goods.
Yeah.
Okay.
So depending on your service may be a taxable good, and then you would, whatever that is, and they tell you your tax rate. If you're in the city, some of them 8.25, in the county, some are 6.25. You just have to look at your area where you have your license registered at, and then it's normally 8.25 in this area because we collect the 2 pennies here in the city, and then the county collects the cents for the ESDs, or they collect it for like the Expo Center. So yeah.
So wherever your business is established,
Okay.
that's the rate that you collect.
And always do it, because once you
So if I'm using my house as kind of my headquarters?
If it's in Floresville, then it would be 8.25. If it's in the county, if you were in the county before they changed, it used to be 6.25, which is the state minimum.
Yeah.
But now they're all raising that up to 8.25.
Yeah. But one of the first things I would do is go out to the state comptroller's website.
Okay.
And there's a section there that says, when you go to the sales tax portion, there is a section in there that says, should I be charging sales tax? And it lists every type of business, almost, that you can think of, that's in there. And that'll let you know if you even need to mess with that.
Okay.
So I'm gonna ask a question, I already know the answer, but I want you to answer it for us.
Okay, so far you haven't stumped me, but you will at some point.
So for a person who has a business, but they have a business at home, like, what's the percentage that we can tackle that?
Okay, it's different, and this is a really good topic. So this is also one that the IRS is really hot on the trail of, is business use of home, because once everybody got cell phones and computers, and everybody wanted to turn. So that's one of the reasons why employees lost that, which really stunk because we lost it right before COVID hit and people were forced to work from home. But if you have a business and you have no place else to work, which means there's not an office space, there's no other place that you can go, then there is business use of home. There's two different methods. One is a simplified method, which I more recommend to my clients because all you're doing is taking the square footage times $5 a square foot. You're allowed to deduct about $1,500 if you have a profit. It's not allowed to create a loss for you. It's only off of profit. Or there's the old standard method where you can take that space, divide it by the entire square footage, you get a percentage, you can take your electric, your internet, your anything that it takes to run your home. There's direct and indirect. So if I paint the walls of my office, I can deduct that fully. If I paint the whole house, I take the percentage. The only thing with business use of home, and this, I have some clients that say I want to do it, that's fine. When you use the actual method, you're also depreciating your home. Okay, so if I own a home for 2 years or more and it's my main home and I sell it, as a single person, I'm allowed to exclude $250,000 in gain, a married couple up to $500,000 when I sell my home. Once you've used it for depreciation and once you've used it for actual expenses, you've turned that small little portion of your home into a business asset. It's not going to be a huge tax to you, but if you do sell that home, it doesn't fall completely under the exclusion because you've depreciated it. You've taken a business benefit of a portion of your home. So you've basically placed it into service. And the
Same thing with your
deduction,
vehicle. You can take a percentage of your odometer reading, but don't claim 100% because if you're using it for personal use and work use, you can, there's some gray areas. So make sure you stay, rule of thumb is always stay under the person going above.
Yes.
and your buddies will tell you, your buddies will tell you can write all that off, but they're not gonna be sitting there with you. Uncle Sam called, your buddies will suddenly disappear.
They're not the one that signed that paper.
Yeah.
That's the good thing. I don't have very many buddies. So.
I don't have all the stuff on it, but because it wasn't part of the thing, but one of the things we're going to try to do later on is an app, workshop on apps, so we can bring these type of things that make your life easier. So they have there's research on some top 3 odometer reading apps. So when you go, you swipe your phone this way, and you put your number in it, and you swipe it this way, and you put it back. So it just keeps all your odometer readings daily. There's odometer reading apps, there's sales tax apps, and just things like that, different things you can do to make your life a little easier. So you can download it straight to your computer, and you're not having to. Old days where when we first started, it was gas receipts, and I still keep them as backups because I'm old school and write the odometer readings on it. But the go for the odometer reading versus gas receipts. Those keep all your receipts, put in the box. No, you better have point A to point B, have your odometer readings because that's how they're going to track your mileage.
At the end of the day, it's all about documentation. So if you're taking a deduction, make sure you've got documentation.
Why?
A lot of documentation. You can miss a few things, but have the majority. So if you're doing the mileage, that you've got either a list or an app that you used, and you can digitize it.
And it's crazy because like all the stuff you can take. I mean, we talked about earlier all the different 1099s they can give you. We take payments from like Zella and PayPal and Cash App, and just there's all different. I mean, my wife was telling me about them all the other day. I was like, so I don't. Do they have memos? I was asked that question earlier for myself. Maybe a dumb question. So they have I don't have money like that. But my wife does, so she can put in the memo bunco.
Yes,
okay.
And she should start. You need to start putting personal.
Okay, because they're at the school all the time. And they're like teacher, like I'm gonna get a teacher shirt, and then they give all.
But I wouldn't just put personal.
Yeah.
Because personal could mean you just.
So personal T-shirts for work.
T-shirts or an event or lunch with friends or some notation in there when you transfer money because it, like I said, it didn't go into effect.
Every Friday they PayPal someone to go someone away Friday for lunch. So that's what got a red flag in mine. So that's good. And they can count that as income.
Oh, when they first announced that, I will tell you, every soccer mom in the world called the office going, oh my gosh, we do this all the time. We transfer money back and forth from each other. And I'm like, just keep good records, you know, just put it in there that it was a personal transaction, you went to dinner, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, always review everything you're doing, your bank accounts, and your personal and your private, and your business, because there's sometimes where I've accidentally paid with my own personal card instead of paying with my business card. Same thing with the credit cards, it's happened because they look very similar to one another. So once go in there, make sure that you have expensed everything correctly. Because you may have that receipt, you're like, wait a minute, why does this receipt look different, the number to the one in my business account? That's because you used your personal card. It happens. It's
Be
happened.
careful, and that's one of the things that I, wanted to make sure with that one handout is don't commingle.
Don't do that. Just keep it separate.
Separate credit cards, like I used personally when I was before I took this job, when I was at the fire department stuff, I kept Chase credit cards, so I had different levels and different colors. And that way, I kept all the rewards the same because it was all one, but that number was always different, so I didn't always, my personal's here and here's my business. And
Either that or a cheap trick that I use. Men could do it too. My wallet has credit card compartments over here, and then it's got this little pull-out thing that has different credit cards. I keep my business cards in a separate spot than my personal. You can do that. Most men's wallets have two sides. Keep your business cards on one side, and it'll be less chance of paying with the wrong card.
Well, good. Well, I know I want to be valuable to everyone's time. People have lines come up, people have other stuff to get to. We said we'd be here for an hour. Like I said, this is hopefully real informal and did a great job. I want to thank Laura. Let's give a round of applause.
Yeah.
We didn't have to do that, but that's what it is. It's about spreading the business of our local businesses. So thank you for doing that. Again, most of you